Hi, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to continue with the projects that I started last week with the sausage. If you're interested in me bulk cooking sausage and tweaking it to add more flavor, you can go and check next week's video after this one's over. But today we're going to take a bunch of onions that I have that are getting a little bit older, and I want to do something with them before they go bad. So I'm going to cut them up, dice them the way I like them, and freeze them, and then put them in Ziploc bags so they're not clumped together, and I can use them freely throughout the coming months as I need to. So let's get started. Okay, so I have not many onions left. I have 6, so it won't take us very long, but I will cut off the ends. Remove the papery part because it's messy. Then I cut it in half, roughly. Doesn't have to be exact. And I pull off the outer skin. I leave as much as I can. Sometimes you have to take a little bit more. Yeah, this one I have to take a little bit more. So that outer layer. You want to make sure that you have a nice sharp knife for this. One, so that you won't have to work so hard. Having a sharp knife slices through very easily. A dull knife is going to work against you. And I also learned recently from my son that apparently if you have a sharp knife, it releases less of the oils that will make your eyes burn from the gases. Next, what I do, not everybody does it this way, I don't go all the way to the end part, whichever side you're using, but I make cuts in, if you can see that right there, close to the end, and I just mirror that. You can go as wide or as narrow as you want. I like small dice, so I go pretty close. Doesn't have to be perfect, and I go all the way through to the end like that. Then if you want an even smaller dice for those ends to make it easier, very carefully, I saw it into about where you cut, and then whenever I go to dice here, it's in these little small pieces. I don't have to further chop anything except for the end. And you just work your way through, making sure to keep your fingers out of the way. And now all I'm left with, this is about where it was done cutting. I cut this one in half, depending on how thick it is, lay it on its side, and then I fine dice that as well. And it makes it super easy to have your onion chopped in minutes. So I'm gonna repeat the same thing. Now I'm going to take my food scraper, scrape up the onion pieces, sprinkle them out on this cookie sheet, and kind of break apart since I'm wanting to have smaller pieces for easier serving portion sizes later on. I'm going to kind of separate these a little bit. There we go. All right, now we just wash, rinse, and repeat and finish out our onions. You can see a green part on this one. That's okay, you can eat that. It's just the onion is coming apart for year 2 of its life stage to make seeds, but I don't want it to get any bigger and start shriveling, so that's why I'm taking care of these now. The reason that I'm putting it on the cookie sheet this time instead of straight into a Ziploc bag is I've found putting it straight in there makes the onion stick together because it's liquidy. I'm going to do it this way so that it flash freezes in my freezer first, and then after about an hour or so, I'm going to pull out these sheets, put them into Ziploc bags, seal them up, and then put them back. And they should stay more separated and make it easier for me to pour out of the bag instead of having to break off apart. All right, we've got the onions all cut up, so now I'm gonna go stick them in the freezer. We'll be back to show what they look like and get them bagged up. All right, let's stick it in. We're just gonna put it roughly flat on top of here so it doesn't fall, and away it goes. The second thing I'm going to work on today is I have a 5-pound block of mozzarella cheese that I got from Azure Standard that I need to get out of my refrigerator and make it shredded and put into portion sizes. That way I can grab a bag out of the freezer and have a homemade delicious meal for my family ready in minutes comparatively. Here's my big old block of cheese. This does take a little bit of time as opposed to just buying the bags that are pre-shredded. However, it's well worth your effort for Couple of reasons for sure. One, it's so much cheaper to get the cheese in bulk like this than the pre-shredded, but also they put a non-caking agent on the shredded cheese that I don't really want to be eating all the time, or my family. So I make the time and put in the effort to go ahead and buy my own and shred it. So I cut it down into blocks that are smaller. You have this gadget, it's plastic, but it seems to be pretty sturdy, that you can use to push and hold against your cheese as you're cutting, so you don't have to worry about your hand. But at the end, if you need to hold on to it, just be careful of your fingers. But then you take the handle and you start rotating. I'm doing it slow at the moment just to kind of show the process. And you're firmly pushing down with your left hand against the cheese to keep it up against the spinner. And you can see it is cutting a nice, decent, it's not tiny, but it's not huge either. It's a nice size for managing your whatever dish you're doing. And if you notice kind of right here, the cheese, because this is mozzarella, it's a soft cheese, it's kind of breaking apart. That's the reason I'm not using my food processor for this, because it tends to break off and stay stuck in the top, and then it just flops back and forth, and it gets built up. I'm always afraid I'm gonna break my machine. So when I'm doing a lot, I like to come over to this. It makes it a lot easier. When you get down toward the end, you can always stack the pieces. So take this one and put on top. And if you have it high enough and you don't want to use this, you can always just leave the flap up. I'm pushing pretty firm with my left hand. Helps it to kind of go a little bit faster as you're shredding. As they get softer and pushed in, they'll kind of flop over. I'll take those pieces over here and put the other piece back on top and keep going. Any pieces like this that might fall, same thing. Just put them back up here in line. And that's exactly why, that's what they do in the food processor. They just fall apart on those ends. And if small enough pieces fall through and you don't want to put them back on top, you can even just break them apart. Because this is a melting cheese, you'll just let it blend in as it's melting. Nobody will know anything different, and it saves you a little extra time. Okay, I'm gonna use my Ziploc bag holder just to make it a little bit neater, hopefully, and do the assembly line. I'm not gonna measure this for my usage. I'm just gonna roughly fill the bags, but you could do 1 cup, 2 cup if you know you have specific dishes, especially if you want to vacuum seal. That comes in handy so you know exactly how much you have. But I use it quite a bit when I'm doing a lasagna or a pizza, because it's usually 3 or 4 pizzas. It doesn't do me any good to measure. So what you wanna do is just kind of squeeze as much of the air out as you can. And then I kind of, so that they're flatter. You don't want to squish the cheese, so you don't want to, especially mozzarella, but kind of flatter so it's thinner and defrosts a little bit easier. All right, looks like we got 7 quart-sized bags, roughly evenly filled with the mozzarella cheese. So now the last step that I'm going to do is I'm going to label it. I usually just do M-O-Z-Z, it's clear enough for me, but you can label it however you want, just so that you know what kind of cheese you're filling it with, and then the date, the month, and the year is usually all I do, because we go through it pretty fast, so that you know when you put it in the freezer, and you can do rotation of your food, first in, first out. And it is now January of 25. Wow, I can't believe that. And even though I labeled these, I will still reuse these bags that have the cheese in them. When I'm done, we usually wash them and reuse them so that they don't go to waste. They get multiple uses. And then if I'm putting something different in them, I'll just mark it through and re-label it. I don't mind. It's not like I'm gifting this. So the last thing now is to just go stick it in the freezer, and we're all done. Now then I'll clean up. We're back with our onions. They have been in the freezer for about 1.5 hours to 2, and they are frozen consistency that I want them to be now. So I'm going to scoop them into my bags and get them back in the freezer. Something else I'm going to do, because these are such potent onions, is I'm going to put them into a gallon-sized Ziploc bag as well, so that they're double bagged and they don't stink up the rest of my food in the freezer. Helpful little tip for you. Our onions are all done and bagged up, ready to go, clearly labeled so I know what I put in here. I'm gonna enjoy having the convenience of being able to just pull these out and throw them into whatever dishes I'm baking this winter. Have a blessed day, and thank you for joining us again. Bye.